Hey everyone, this is me, the Untitled Viking, and this is Silver River from Robert Burke Games. Silver River is a 4X game that plays in 2 hours or less. Yes, that's right, 2 hours or less, but still retains that wonderful 4X feel. If you are unaware of 4X, what it stands for, if I'm going to remember this correctly, exterminate, explore, expand, and exploit. And all four of those things are very, very common in civilization-type games. They all are about starting small, and as the game progresses, you get bigger and better and more powerful. There are some very, very classic board games out there that are very, very good. Twilight Imperium is one that usually comes up in people's minds. Obviously, Eclipse is one that is very popular as well. And these are very good games. However, they are epic games. I've talked many times about the Twilight Imperium group that lives in my area that actually combines like 2 giant sets of Twilight Imperium, and they play like 20-hour-long games. And that's fine. If you want an epic long game and want something that's going to take like a weekend to play, there's something very special and very awesome about that, and I'm not begrudging that in any way. However, there is a itch that, as I've grown older, as my children have grown older, my time to play games just keeps shrinking, even though my job is basically playing games. And it's really, really weird when people say that, why don't you play more games? And I'm like, I don't have time because I work in games. Yes, I know that sounds ridiculous, but it's the truth, and it's tough finding somebody, and also your friends that you play games with, right? They're getting older, their kids are getting older. It's like their time to play games are shrinking as well. So tracking down that time and tracking down those people, and I play with the same people that I've been playing games with since I was 18 years old, in some cases since I was 5 years old. So finding the time to scratch that itch of games that we used to play when we were younger and we weren't married and we had no children, and like being able to still enjoy that type of game is something that I always look forward to when I find it, and I've definitely found it with Silver River. So let me show you how the game is played. It is super awesome, but it is super straightforward. It is so good as far as like having a complex rule set that is very, very straightforward, very, very intuitive. And then we'll come back here and I'll give you my final thoughts of this game. Spoiler, it's really good. Alright, so this is Silver River, and I am going to show you how the game is played. Now, I'm not going to do a turn-by-turn expose, if you will, but I'm just going to go over the actions and basically what you're going to be doing for each age of the game. Now, each age of the game is like a process in which each player is going to get multiple turns, and, well, if they want to, but more on that in a little bit. Basically, you take turns until you pass. You're going to get multiple turns, and you're going to be able to do a multitude of different things. After 4 ages, the game is over, and then you total up the victory points and see who wins. Alright, so what you're seeing in front of you is a setup for a 4-player game. You can see that there are the 4 home planets. You can tell because they have those population cubes on them, and they're also surrounded by the fleet that each player has. I only have 1 player set up in front of me just because this is what I'm going to be using for how to play the game, but there are plenty of different player races and things like that that are included with the game that you're going to be able to use. And they're not all the same either. All of them have like a special little power, like here the Yael. Their ability is your trade stations deliver as 3 ships, and you gain +1 of any resource when you have a trade station. So that's different than like the humans here. Ability may draw 3 tactics cards instead of 2 when you take a tactics political action. So little tiny things like that. Also, each of each can build 3 wonders. You all can build these orbital shipyards. You can all build these pleasure domes, and these are exactly the same. Shipyards just allow you to build ships quicker, and pleasure domes prevent a planet from being attacked. But like here, the luxury spaceport, let me just read this real quick. It says, Yao only provides +2 production for your trade stations within 1 hex of this sector. Whereas like the human has the galactic court. You may use any type of production to perform military or civilization actions within 1 hex of this wonder. So each one of them has like their own special abilities, and I always like that. I mean, it isn't truly, completely, totally asymmetrical or anything like that, but, you know, having variable player powers is always kind of a cool thing to help with an immersion situation, because obviously this is a thematic game. All right, so what you're looking at in front of you is you're going to have these 3 boards that you're going to have. You're going to have this board that's going to keep track of your fleets. As you can see, there are the 4 fleets, and you can see there's those 4 discs out there for those 4 fleets. And they have, like, the fleet number 1 has 5 ships, then 3, and then 2, and then 1. Now, the big thing underneath each one of these discs, there is a number. So that is my fleet number 3, as you can see. But the thing is that the fog of war and all that, the other players aren't going to know. Me, as the player, I can pick up those and look at them at any time and then put them back down. Obviously, I know what fleets are what, but you never know what other people have. And this is fair knowledge. Like, they know, like, if you have, like, oh, you got one fleet with 10, you know, that could be a way to, like, kind of, impose your will upon somebody, if you will, because of the fact that, like, oh, they don't know if you have, like, the big fleet next to them or if you have a small fleet next to them. All right. So skipping over to here, this is where you have your technology. You have your basic technology that you start with, your basic colonization, your basic populate, your basic logistics, and your basic fleet, combat, if you will. Now, each player is going to get a, 2 like decks of cards that are going to be their civilization and their military technology. I'll talk more about this in a little bit. But when you upgrade one, like, you might just you cover up. You cover up like a spot that you already have, and if you do that, so like let's say you have like advanced colonization 1, you don't really need colonization. You can just go ahead and place it over, and you can tell that because of the fact that they have these little symbols of the same. But you notice that there's these 4 spots over here, where like it has extra specific rules for it. You have to explore an empty space X to unlock this slot. So as soon as you've done that, you can unlock that slot, and then maybe you could put your trade stations down here and build 1 trade station in any empty space, and then max 1 per space slot. And the trade stations are a way to gain more resources, and these are your trade stations that you have. And I should mention, this is a prototype I was sent, so the way the game is going to look once it's published, is probably going to be slightly different, but, this is a pretty high-end prototype. And I'm going to definitely show you close-ups of these space monsters. Ooh, space monsters in just a little bit. But later on, like, you might build another technology, like, say you build terraforming, and, like, you put that over. If you run out of spots, you are able to put technology over the top of other technology. You don't lose that technology, but you do lose access to that technology. Later on, you're able to move your shuffle cards on with an action. I'll talk about that action in a little bit. But that's how, like, you can, if you're running out of spaces for technology, you can definitely cover things up. And later on, you can rearrange those things. So just go ahead. I'm going to grab these, put them back in my hand here. Before the game begins, each person is going to look, they're going to have this deck of personal objectives. They're going to pick 5 of these cards. Personal objectives come in many different varieties. You have like a political, civilization, technology, miscellaneous, and military. You can pick any 5 of those that you wish. The other players aren't going to see them. You're going to keep them to yourself. So if you're going to go for like a military win, you can be taking these cards. It's up to you as far as how you're going to be playing that particular game. So like here, just to show you one of them. Here you have civilization, success conditions, have the majority population on 3+ planets at maximum population, and then gain 2 victory points, and you get that immediately. And then have the majority of the population on the most planets, and then gain 4 victory points at the end of the game. So each of these have like different things. So you're going to have those, and you're going to be able to like kind of tailor the game to how you want to play that particular session. Another thing that's going to keep this game coming back to the table is the fact that you're going to play it a certain way, and you're going to say, you know what, I don't want to be a military guy. I was in space battles constantly last game. I would much rather focus on exploration. And you can do that. You can choose to play it that way. All right. So, on the other hand, we have the public objectives. And these are all these over here. You'll notice, for starters, like they have multiple spots for placing cubes down for multiple players to earn them. This one happens to have like 3 of them, so the first 3 would get on there. And you can't put more than 1 cube on, but it's like, the Galactic Defender. Defeat a level 1 monster as a leader, and then +2, and then level 2 monster, and then +4, and then level 3 monster, +6. So, things like that, you can definitely improve that. One other thing, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, there is a lot of stuff going on, but it's all flows really, really well. I mean, your explanation of the game the first time you play, it's going to take a little bit of time, but everybody's going to kind of grasp it. There are 3 different political roles that you can vote for. Like trade leader, you get more raw production. The Galactic Leader gets more political production during the production phase, and then they get to break all the ties. And then the Spy Master gets +1 tactics card during the production phase. So, different little powers, and I'll talk once again about the voting here in just a little bit when I dive more into the production and more into how you take your turn. Last thing but not least, I want to talk to you about tactics cards. Tactics cards are that deck over there by the space monsters that you can probably see. Tactics cards have, like as you can see in this particular card, everybody gets one to begin the game. You can discard this to reroll up to 5 dice when you attack, or you can discard this to gain 3 production. And so these are cards, and there's no hand limit. You can basically collect as many of these as you want, and then spend them as you like as the game progresses. All right. So now, after you set up the game, everybody's picked their particular, objectives that they're going to do. They've kind of surveyed the land. You do set up the map, and the map is set up in a way, this is like the standard 4-player setup. There are multiple different ways to set up. You have tons more of these tiles that you're going to be able to go for, so you definitely can create this as epic or as tiny as you want, depending upon what you and your players are going to be enjoying that particular time. Most of these planets, like I said, there are like, here's like a 4, 4, 3, things like that. Most of them are habitable. You can definitely go ahead and land on those, and you can have population on those. However, some of them have this terminology there that says hostile. That basically means that the planet is dangerous to settlers, and so you're going to have to get a technology. The technology is subterranean, which basically means that people are going to be living underneath the ground, and then you're able to take over those planets. Some of these areas are just empty, like these. Those empty spots are allowed to be explored. That's where you're going to be sending your ships to do explore actions, and you're going to go through that explore deck, which you're going to see over there, and I'll show you that as well here in just a little bit. Last but not least, the giant space monsters. Here we have the giant space monsters. At the beginning of each age, you're going to release a monster. In this particular first age, you're going to have level 1 space monsters, and like you have Krator, and this will make more sense when combat shows around, because combat's really, really simple, but it definitely does depend on your technology and the amount of fleets that you have. But like Krator is like level 1, and then battle rolls does 2 damage each fleet every turn. Critical hit destroys Krator and takes 6 hits to defeat. And then the rewards, you get political production, gain 2 tactics, +1 raw production. So there's definitely rewards for it. But when you do that, you're going to take this and you're going to put him in Sagittarius A, like there. So you have this big giant space monster just either A, begging you to fly to him and do battle with him, or B, you're scared of him and you want to stay away. But you can team up like more than one player. This is definitely a game where you're going to be conversing with each other, talking to each other, making deals, saying, hey, don't attack me here. Hey, want to help me destroy that space monster? Hey, want to gang up on the green reptilian race? They seem to be doing really well. Let's go destroy them. The game beyond the game. But all right, so enough about all that. Let's show you how this game is played. All right, so the game has a production phase, and like the production phase definitely is like at the very beginning when you release the space monster. But with the production phase, at the very first turn of the game, you get 8 raw production. You just get that to start with, just to kind of boost you. But you do not start with 8 raw production every single age. What you do at the beginning of the game is that you gain production from like various sources, but mostly you're going to be getting it from where you have population. Everybody's going to have 5 population on their home world to begin the game, and so you're going to gain 5 of that population. And after you have all of your population, what's going to happen is Each player is going to, and I'm not going to actually use this because I don't want to block things, but each player is going to have like a little board that's going to be, cover up their decisions that they're going to make, and each person is going to place production cubes into one of these 4 spots. Now, one quick thing, when you put the raw production into those spots, it becomes that production unless you have a special power or something. You cannot change it later. So just keep that in mind. Like, the humans have that ability. If they have like the lactic quart, they can change it up. But I mean, for the most part, it's where it ends up is where it's going to be. So you have to kind of look at the board. You have to decide, what am I going to do? Do I want to move my fleets around? Do I want to try to explore? All the kinds of different things like that. And you're going to place these cubes, and I'm just going to randomly. I'm not really do this because I don't want to have to think right now. But you're going to place those cubes where you want to, and then everybody's going to reveal them all at the same time. Quick little note, as you're going through your turn, you may end up passing before you've used up all of these cubes. The cubes you do not use do not go back into raw production. They've already been slotted into the spots that they're in. So they have to remain there. And that actually can work to your advantage. You might actually plan that way to say, okay, going to leave this here, and then next turn I'm going to have a really big turn when it comes to, political production or whatever. So that's definitely an option that you have. All right. So beginning with the first player, and you determine the first player, like the first turn randomly, and you just, you go ahead. But after that, it's the first person who passes is going to get the first player marker. And so the person that goes first is going to just choose, and they're going to say, I'm doing civilization production, I'm doing technology production. Whatever they're going to choose to do, they're going to say that, and then they can take as many actions as they want in that particular field until either A, they decide to quit, or B, they run out of cubes that fuel that particular production. Now, one quick thing. On your turn, if you decide to pass, the moment you decide to pass is the moment you get to take one of your cubes, and I'm not going to have all the other cubes, and you get to place it onto this board, which is the domestic investment board. And so it has 4 different spots. It has the arts, it has infrastructure, it has education, and it has social programs. After you pass, and you get to place one on this board, you then, at that time, if it comes back to you and you get to pass again, basically because you can't re-enter the game, you get to either place another cube if there isn't a cube on one of these spots, or you can do a spot that you already have a cube, and you can continue to move it down this line. So the domestic investment, what it is that each time, and then these are going to be worth, you earn 3 victory points for each track where you are either at the top of the track compared to everybody else, or you're tied for the highest. And so you are able to, and then you also at the end earn victory points equal to whatever you are the lowest in. So like at the very end, like if you had like a 9, a 7, a 6, and a 5, like on the 4 different tracks, you'd get 5 more victory points because you for investing in domestic investment. Also, you're going to see, and it might be a little because of the background art here, it might be a little tough to see, each one of these has like a little symbol. Some of these are just victory points like these, but some of these are these, which would tell you that you get to add a ship to one of your fleets. But a lot of these are just going to be production cubes. So like here, and if you look, like that's the political, because you can see that on the political production spot. So when you place that, you're just going to get to place a cube directly as a one-time gift for doing that. So it's one of those things where you will actually be thinking, oh, get it back to my turn, let me pass. I hope I get like 2 passes this particular turn, because if I can pull that off, I'm going to be able to move, this to that and that to this. And I really like this. I can't say enough about how much I really, really enjoy this, because usually in games where you pass and you don't get to do something, you're just like, ugh, I didn't have enough to do anything this turn, I'm passing. And then it's like, and everybody else keeps getting to do fun stuff, and you just got to sit there and watch them. But at the very least, you're getting something when it gets back to your turn. Oh, again, I can't stress enough how cool this is. I really, really like that. And plus, it can be a totally valid way for you to strategize to win the game, because this game isn't about who beats up the other person or eliminates other people. It's about being able to score the most victory points at the end of the game. All right. All right. So let me actually talk to you about how you go through your process. So each one of these different spots has several different actions that you can take. So I'm just going to start with political. So for a 1 cube in political, you can call for elections. And when you spend these, you spend them and you throw them aside like that. You get rid of them, right? All right. So, but when you call for an election, what happens is that you get to call for election for one of these cards. You can spend multiple cubes to call for multiple votes, and then you can then choose which one gets to be voted on first, and then second, and so on and so forth. And this is actually a pretty smart thing, because like if you know a couple people are really gunning, for the Spy Master, you could say, okay, we're going to go for Spy Master first, and you can get them to spend their cubes to vote for that particular spot before you call for the one that you're really shooting for. So voting is really simple. What happens is that each person will take the cubes they have in their political production that they haven't spent yet, obviously, because if they've spent it, it's been tossed aside. And then each person will you can have discussion. You can say, hey, vote for me for this, vote for me for that. Whatever role you're voting for, everybody will put their hands in the middle, like so. And then they'll go 1, 2, 3, and then they'll reveal the cubes. And if you're voting for yourself, you keep your hand closed. And if you're voting for somebody else, you point at that person after you say 1, 2, 3. So whoever wins, any cubes spent on that win are then discarded. Any votes that were spent in a win that didn't happen, like if you lost, you get to take those cubes and get to put them back. So another cool thing, I like the whole thing where you put both hands in and you point and you reveal. I know, I mean, that's a very classic mechanism, reveal, but being able to point and pick who you're going to, like say like you've been, these two people over here have been arguing, oh, vote for you, vote for me. And you have that big moment and you're like, and and that person can curse you and then promise that he's going to, eradicate you from the stars for what you did. All right, so that is political. So then also you can build a wonder. Build a wonder is pretty simple. It's just a planet that you have populated. You get to place one of your 3 wonders in that spot. And also you can do a tactics to purchase tactics cards. So you just spend the number of cubes that you need to. Normally it's 2, but it can be affected by other things. And then what happens is that you get to draw 2, but in this case, since I'm human, I get to draw 3. And what you do is you look at 3 and you get to pick 1, or normally it would be like 2 and pick 1. So you look at your 3, you look at the cards you picked. I like this one where it's like add 1 ship to all your fleets. That's pretty nice. Go ahead and we're going to take that one, and then you're going to take these. I'm going to move this space monster here out of the way, and then you just discard those, and those aren't the ones that you're going to be keeping. And like as I said, remember, you can have as many tactics cards as you want. There's no limit. All right, so technology production, that is probably the most simple. All you're going to do is you're going to spend your cubes on whatever it is that you want. You have to notice how like there's like level 5 technology, and it goes all the way to level 1. You have to build a level 1 technology before you build level 2. You have to build level 2 before you build level 3, and so on and so forth. So if I wanted to buy military technology and I wanted to buy this fleet upgrade to get mass drivers, that if you on the bottom here it says it costs 2. I'm going to go ahead and I'd place that down like so, and I'd spend 2 cubes to do that. And now all my fleets have been upgraded, and I just accidentally threw another person onto my home planet. You can't ever, unless you have like terraforming, you can't exceed the number that's on the planet. It's just I just cheated there, so I caught myself. But so now like my weapons on all my fleets have been upgraded, and they can now fire better, which is obviously always a good idea. Never bad to have a technology. Now I actually kind of did that very poorly, because when I was just randomly distributing, I forgot the fact that basically there are no technologies that cost 1, so I can't take any more actions if I was doing that, but I'd have that 1 cube left over for next turn if I wanted to. But all right, so moving on. So military has a lot of different things going on with it. You can build ships. You can if you build ships, depending upon technologies you have, they're going to cost a certain number of cubes. Like the orbital shipyard. If you're in a spot with the orbital shipyard, you can you can take the action to build 5 ships for 3 military production. Usually it's 1 for 1, but you're just going to spend that, and you're just going to add those to the fleets as depending on and add them up and increase the number of ships that you have in those fleets that you decide. The other big thing is that you are going to then have the ability to activate a fleet. You can only activate a fleet once on your turn. You can't activate a fleet, and I'm going to activate that fleet, and I'm going to activate that fleet. You could build ships and activate fleets, but you can only activate the fleet once. And you could build ships, activate a fleet, and then build ships again. So those are options that you have. When you activate a fleet, it costs 1, and then you're normally going to move, unless there's a card or something else, you're going to move your ships either 0 or 1 space. Now, when you activate a fleet, it's like, why would I move 0? Well, a lot of times they're going to be in a spot where you want them to be. So you might be taking an action of like colonizing a planet. So when you colonize a planet, like if I activated this fleet right here, I'm on that planet that has a 4 on it, I could say I'm going to colonize that planet. And so, like, I get that. I don't have to take the action of colonization. I just get to take that. So I can go ahead, and when I had to have a fleet in the spot with planet, but that costs 3. So if I spent I activated it, and then I went and I would spend like the 3 get rid of this one, and then I would spend the 3 to colonize. I would get to put 1 little person on there. Like I've dropped down my colony pod, and now I've claimed that planet. Now, interesting thing about planets is that as long as you control the planet, as long as you have the majority on that particular planet. So if I had 2 on there, and you can share a planet. There's nothing wrong with sharing a planet, but obviously Red would be getting a production out of that planet because of the fact that they have a population out there. But I would have control of that. So so a lot of times when it comes down to things where like, oh, you control a planet X or this, that, and the other thing, because it might satisfy either your own personal objectives or a communal objective, that's important. So just majority rules, and remember, if you happen to be, if you have a tie, which means nobody wins anything, you do, as the black leader, you get to break your ties. So that's obviously a very, very powerful ability to have in situations in this game. The way you build up population on a planet is with civilization production. I kind of, yes, I moved away from military just for a moment because I want to talk about combat and I want to talk about exploration here in just a moment, but I do want to, before I do, I want to talk about civilization because this kind of goes hand in hand when you're taking fleet actions. Civilization, you can colonize a planet. You can take these actions alone as colonizing planets, and just because you have a fleet in that spot, you don't have to activate a fleet to do so. But you can also populate. So the populate, if you look at the populate on the board, it says add X population cubes to any planets you have colonized, and it costs 2 civilization points for each 1 population. So in this case right here, when I added 2 to it, I would have had to spend 4. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to put another 1 right here. And like the colonization, I would spend 4, and I would have added these 2 cubes on there to colonize and have 2 more people. I don't know if we cloned them or we we put forth a lot of like extra fertility drugs or something into the blood, into the water or something like that. But for whatever reason, it's the future, right? And we're able to colonize planets that way. All right. So heading back to military. So explore. So when you explore a spot, exploring is really, really fun. It's probably like my most fun part of the game. It adds a lot of narrative and adds a lot of immersion, and it has things where you're going to have side quests and stuff like that that you're going to be able to endeavor and engage in. So when you explore an empty space, so if I did an action here, let me move that cube out of there. If we did an action here with that fleet, and I did an explore action there, what happens is that like you get to explore a card, and you can't explore anyway. You have to explore an empty spot in space. But okay, so here you have a capture, and it's like primitive aliens living on an asteroid. You can capture and study them, in which case then you would gain 2 civilization production. You can destroy them and mine the resources of that asteroid, in which case you would gain 2 military production. Or you can capture and integrate the aliens and then draw 1 tactics card. So you have these cool little things where multiple options, and you can decide at that time. And once again, it's kind of a neat little idea. Now, there are things where you have side quests where Here you have the signal generator that was destroyed previously kept a monster in stasis. Now the monster is unleashed upon the galaxy. You can select one. Alert the galaxy of this new threat. Then you would gain 2 political production, and then place a monster of your choice and the lowest level on this space. Or hunt down the monster yourself. Place a monster of your choice on this lowest space and immediately battle it with this fleet. So, you know, things like that where you have cool little side quests, cool little you know, it just kind of tells the story of the game, and I enjoy when those things happen. Alright, so combat. It wouldn't be a 4X game if you didn't have some exterminating going on. So, just, if you do end up in the same spot as another another fleet, you can coexist peacefully. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to fight. But one of you may decide to activate that fleet and may decide to fight. Now I'm just going to purposely put this guy right here because when a battle begins, if anybody is within 1 hex of it, you are allowed to join in, right? So actually I don't want these guys to join in. So let's put this somewhere where, let's say they met here. Actually here, they work perfectly. Let's just put him over there. Alright, so let's say they met there, and I think we got even odds. I don't even know. I don't even know which one this is. Oh, it is number 4. That's too bad. Let's just bump him up to like level 4 like that. All right. So let's say I'm going to activate my attack as the yellow player. Now red has the option of like, oh, should I fly in? Now I don't even know which one this would be. It would be blues 4. So they probably have like 2. Let's just say they have 2 ships there. They could be saying, "Hey, Red, come! You know, hey, come help me! Come help me! Come help me!" And if they want to, they can choose to fly in and aid. But of course, then you have another person that's going to be involved in the battle, and more dice being thrown. It's totally fine. Giant hectic space battles are always cool. Now, you could have a situation where you might have a player in the spot already, and they're going to be like, "You know what? This is between you all. I am out." But you could be like, if you decided, they might want to be bystanders, but you could attack them anyway. Of course, you know, this is a game where, like, you know, if you betray somebody in turn 1 of the game, they're definitely going to remember, and it's probably going to come back to haunt you later. So they might say, "I'm not fighting," and then you might roll some damage, and you might be like, "Well, you know what? I'm going to destroy your ships anyway because I needed your help, and you said no, so please die." And that's a completely valid option within this game. Alright, so combat works really, really simple. Like in this case I have 4, and I would grab 4 dice, and like here I have hits on the squares there. There are possibilities, and like let me find the technology so you can see it. There are possibilities where you have critical hits. Like here you have like photon missiles, and you'll see up in the top there that little exclamation point. If you have a weapon that has the ability to do critical hits count as 2 damage. It might have ulterior effects as well, as we saw with Krator, could be destroyed with a critical hit. Oh, and I should mention, you can attack if there was like a trade station built there. Trade stations can be involved in combat and can be destroyed. Also, for that matter, like you can attack people's planets and destroy their civilizations and destroy them, you know, and if you have a planetary bombardment upgrade as well. So you can attack planets. Always nice to know that you can be merciless and destroy defenseless civilians. But, so if you go ahead and like you just roll the dice, let me just see, I am looking for squares, and I got 1 square, so that would be 1 hit. And then the other player, let's just say they hadn't upgraded, they still only hit on circles. Let's see what they get. They only have 2 ships, and it looks like they would have got a hit as well. So then we would take the damage off, we would reduce our fleets by that damage, and then at this point, I could say I'm continuing the fight, and the opponent has the ability to say, "I retreat, and I'm not going to fight anymore. I'm out of here. See you later." And I have the option as the attacker to retreat as well, and then you just move to an adjacent spot. You know, so but as the attacker, if I say I want to fight and they retreat, I don't get to like say, "No, you don't." They decide the discretion is the better part of valor. They leave the area, and you know I can then possibly like lay claim to that area or what have you. Otherwise, if you want to fight to the bitter end, you can. If you destroy somebody's fleet, they just take the marker off. Later turns, if they decide to build the fleet, they just add ships to the fleet on their board, and then they place the ship down on their home world after to show that that fleet has been built. Now, you might want to endeavor at that point, because of the fact that you know what fleet that is, because they just put that one down. I always made sure that I moved my fleet like into another spot after that, and activate it, and then I would pick them up, and I kind of like go, okay, look at these two, and then like later on I'd move one out, and then people wouldn't have an idea of which fleet left that spot, if you will. All right, so that's combat. Combat against monsters works exactly the same. You're gonna roll, like the monsters don't really like fight back with dice. They just do automatic damage, like that's here. And you can involve other players, and like if players are one spot away, they are able to move into that spot and help fight it. And then if you all destroy it, then you all gain the rewards that that particular monster will give you for that reward. All right, so that, in a nutshell, is the Silver River. As I said, there's a lot going on. Like as far as with the game, you can gain. I apologize. I just realized when you do explore a spot, you do have to put one of your explore markers on the spot to show that it's been explored, so nobody else explores that. Because a lot of times, also it will depend. Like there are like objectives that have to do with the number of explored areas you have in comparison to other players, or just in general. So make sure you put those down. The only thing I think I forgot to mention was when you do put a trade station down, how that gets you more production is that any planet that is within 1 hex of it that has population on it automatically gives you 1 production. So and that's anybody's population in those spots, because people are coming to your trade station to trade and do business, and so that's earning you money. So very, very smart positioning of trade stations is very, very important to really ramping up your production, because you get 60 cubes for a reason, because as the game progresses and you get tons of population out there and other ways to increase your raw production, you're going to have lots of different actions. And even so, with lots of different production and divvying up with the 4 different areas that you have, players' turns still do move along really quickly. And they say this is a 4X game that plays in 2 hours, and it totally does. It's something that is pretty amazing as far as condensing that feel of the bigger, longer 4X games that you probably are aware of into something that is very, very presentable, very, very thematic, and very, very fun in a fraction of the time. So the 4th age is over. As soon as that's done, whoever has the most victory points obviously becomes the galactic chancellor, Emperor Palpatine of this particular quadrant of space. But I guarantee you, it won't matter if you win or lose. You'll just have had fun on the ride. And I say that because I'm horrible at games and I never win, but I still have a lot of fun playing this one. But let me talk more about all of that in my final thoughts. Oh, all right, so there's Silver River. All right, so I mean, I've already said the game is really awesome, but let me just talk about the things that I really, really like. I love the adventure aspect of the Explore deck. I mentioned that, but I mean, I think that's just a really cool addition. I think that's there's just something I've always loved about a big giant stack of cards. You never know what's underneath. You never know what's going to happen when you turn it over. Will it be something that really helps you? Will it be something that a giant space monster? Things like that I like. Just like I never know what's going to be inside the box, as they say. So I really, really dig that, and I like how it can be like a really, really good boon, or it could be something that maybe would be helpful later on, or things like that. So it's definitely good. I love the economy of actions. The fact that I put these 10 production cubes into my say my fleet actions because I want to do some major league shuffling of my fleets around and moving around, but I have no idea what the other people past me are going to be doing on their particular turn. So it's like I have to kind of do I not take my military action right away? Do I take a political action right away? Do I just do some research to kind of set myself up for the rest of the turn and let other people kind of do their thing, and then I can figure out what they're going to do? There's that kind of fun little crunchy decisions that you have to make. And plus, like when you finally do like those fleet actions, do I use up all my cubes now, or do I just kind of go halvesies and then like later on, I'll finish it off. But that's when you're like looking at the other people's cubes and you can see where they got them placed and what are they going to do with those. And that's where that table talk happens. And so, you get to actually like feel like you're in charge of a like giant, political, military, science, whatever alien race that's trying to populate the cosmos, and you're, portraying that role, and you're talking to other players and trying to determine what they're trying to do. As I said, I really like that pass mechanic. I just think it's so cool that like you pass early and you're going to get all these bonuses. You're going to move up that domestic track, and I think that's really. I mean, there's probably another game out there that has something like that, and I know that there's been. I think there was a Euro game I played once where like every turn it came around, like on the pass, if you passed, like every turn when it came around, like you got a coin or something like that. I can't remember the name offhand, but the fact that you have these 4 different tracks and each one kind of gives you different rewards depending upon what level you're at, and then the fact that at the end, that's a big chunk of victory points for you as well. That's something that I think is really well done as far as the game. I love the fact that like your fleets are kind of abstract, right? So it isn't like, oh, I have 4 destroyers and I have 2 frigates and I have a battleship and I got a scout. That's all well and good for when I'm sitting down to play Masters of the Universe, Masters of Orion, Masters of the Universe. I have the power, Masters of Orion. That's all well and good when I do that, but because I'm playing that solo and I'm playing against the computer and it's easier to keep track of that stuff. I don't have time to keep track of that stuff. So they made the fleets abstract, and all of them are just kind of the same, and they're the same numbers. And then hey, just roll a big bucket load of dice, and you see what happens. And I do enjoy the fact that combat is quick and brutal and dirty, and then you can just move on instead of like, oh, those 2 players are going to have a combat. I guess you and I get to talk to each other for the next 15 minutes. So that's something that I think they do really, really well. I mean, just the game just is really, really good. If you're looking for a 4X game, a 4X space game, then this is something I think you're really gonna love. I mean, I haven't even mentioned the space monsters. I gotta think one of the 2 designers played a lot of Masters of Orion, not Masters of the Universe, Masters of the Orion, because like you would go to planets and you'd find space eels or space amoebas or space dragons in those spots. Or from the look of those things, like one of the monsters looks a lot like the monster at the very beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy, which that might not be on purpose, but I mean, or it might have just been like both things were being created at the same time. But that one with the giant body flying around with the big mouth. Somebody played a lot of the old video game, coin-operated arcade game, Sinistar. Remember that thing? It's like, run, coward! That's all I could think of when I saw that. It just, somebody had to play a ton of that arcade game back in the day. But regardless, the game's awesome. I think if you are looking for something that is going to be, put on your shelf that's going to be that 4X awesomeness, I strongly suggest you check out Silver River. Check out the Kickstarter page. Check out the cool art and the minis and all those things. And I think you're going to love it if you're looking for another Space 4X game to add to your collection. Or if you don't have one, you want to get something that's going to be awesome, you want to get this. But there you go. If you have any questions about it, please ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. I can't say enough just how cool my audience has been over the last like 3-4 months. I've seen a lot more interactivity and a lot more people posting comments, and just telling me about the games they play and how, when they've played the games that I reviewed, how those games have worked out for them. So please keep those comments going. I love seeing that stuff, and I try to respond to each and every one when I see them. So just keep those coming, and just remember, the more happiness and the more positivity you throw out into the universe, I guarantee you, the more you're gonna get right back, hitting you smack dab in the face, and you are going to be a happier and better person in this world. And that's what this world needs, right? Happier and better people. Just remember, you are awesome. I'm the Undead Viking. I will see you next time.